So once again, welcome and good evening, good afternoon, good morning. For some of you who are joining us from the UK and other countries, had a fantastic response to our webinar invitation. And welcome to what I believe will be a fascinating webinar on PLADO, plant-dominant low-protein diet, which is showing huge promise in improving outcomes for people with chronic kidney disease such as PKD. Now I'll try and move on some slides. So just a few brief introductions. You've already partly met us. So I'm Tess Harris. I'm CEO of the PKD Charity in the UK. And I'm joined by Susan Muirhead, our Community Support Manager, who many of you will know from the charity. We're really delighted that Dr. Kamyar Kalantar-Zadeh, or more simply, we'll call him this evening Dr. Kalantar, has found time in his very busy schedule to join us from the University of California, Irvine. Professor Kalantar studied medicine in Germany. He received a master's degree and a PhD from the University of California, Berkeley, a nephrology specialty at the University of California, San Francisco. He's a triple certified doctor in internal medicine, pediatrics, and nephrology. He's currently chief of the Nephrology, Hypertension, and Kidney Transplantation Division at the University of California, Irvine, which under his leadership has been named twice among the top 50 nephrology centres in the US. Since 2014, he's been ranked amongst the top 10 experts in chronic kidney failure in the world, out of over 90,000 other experts. Dr. Kalantar is a past president of the International Society of Renal Nutrition and Metabolism. He's president-elect of the International Federation of Kidney Foundations and co-chair of World Kidney Day, in which so many of you take part around the world. He's editor-in-chief of the influential Journal of Renal Nutrition. Amongst his many impressive achievements, he's published over 600 scientific articles, written several textbooks, and presented over 500 invited talks and lectures at national and international conferences. Amongst his specialties is the nutritional management of chronic kidney disease. He's published several papers on the potential role of PLADO in improving patient outcomes. That's our webinar topic today. But just before we start, for those of you who don't know us, PKD Charity, I thought I could just give you a brief overview. So we're just over 20 years old. We were started in 2000 by a PKD patient and a kidney doctor. And we're currently led by PKD patients and family members. Indeed, I myself have ADPKD, not long transplanted, and Susan is a living kidney donor to her husband. Our vision is to improve the health and quality of life of everyone affected by PKD and to help find new treatments. Like in many charities, we provide support and do advocacy. We deliver blended education events held around the UK or on web platforms such as this. Of course, during the pandemic, this is all we've been doing, running online events, and webinars and meetups. We give personalised and peer support to everyone who comes to us, whether that's online, face-to-face, or by phone. And we're proud that our advocacy efforts have contributed to global guidelines and consensus publications, which help improve the care of children and adults worldwide. In terms of research, we do some pump priming research into better understanding of both ADPKD and ARPKD. We've helped fund the PKD Biobank of donated tissue, that's PKD kidneys, and some liver tissue at the UCL Royal Field Hospital in London, which has provided over 2,500 samples for over 90 research projects in the UK. And we've supported the development of the UK Rare Renal Register radar, which many of you will be recruited to, which currently has over 7,500 PKD patients, children and adults. Just a reminder that this webinar is for information purposes only, and it's not a substitute for professional medical advice or medical examination. You must always consult your GP, primary care doctor, pharmacist, or other medical professional if you have any concerns about your care or before taking any treatment. And we don't recommend or promote any treatments or brands. Now, lots of you will be familiar with Zoom, having used it during the pandemic, but you've probably been more familiar with the Zoom meeting, where you can see everybody else who's on the call, And you probably noticed that you've attended this particular event without being visible, and you've attended in what's called listen-only mode. So to enable you to ask questions, I'd like you to have a look on your screens, and it might be at the top or bottom of your screen for two speech bubbles. You can see them here highlighted, and those are buttons for Q&A. And we ask you to preferentially use the Q&A button to ask your questions. Don't use the chat unless it's just to send us a quick message about something technical or if there's a problem. You can ask your questions anonymously, and we can answer them either directly live, and Dr. Kalantar will do that, or we may indeed just pop a quick message in the answer box for you if it's fairly straightforward. And if you have any follow-up questions, email us at info@pkdcharity.org.uk. Of course, we may not have time to answer all the questions, but we'll do our best. And later on, we will be uploading the webinar to the PKD website and our YouTube channel. We do a little bit of editing before it goes live. And all of you will be notified about that in a couple of days. Finally, we'd just like to thank the National Lottery in the UK, Community Fund, for supporting this event. And now I'm going to hand over to Dr. Kamyar Kalantar. And you should be able to share your screen, Dr. Kalantar. So I'm going to stop mine, and hopefully you will be able to share yours. I'll just double check that you've got capacity to do that.
Thank you. So I'm going to start sharing.
Great. And I'll just go off video.
It's a little bit busy desktop. Yeah.
You have a very busy desktop.
All right. Very good. So such a great pleasure and honor to be here, especially with colleagues, partners. I usually refer to my patients, my patient partners. And it's such a great honor to be with the patients. And also, I assume there are some colleagues here, healthcare providers, doctors, nephrologists, dietitians, social workers, nutritionists, nurses. We're all here a team. And who runs the team? Who's the head of the team? The doctor, nephrologist, wrong. It's the patient. It's everything about the patient and patients. The patient decides what to do. So my name is Kamyar Kalantar. I'm a practicing nephrologist in Southern California. My office is actually in walking distance from Disneyland, but you don't need to envy the situation because Disneyland has been shut down for over a year and actually just opened several weeks ago. And so it's a nice place. I assume global warming will not leave that as nice in 20 years from now, but for now, it's a nice place to be in Southern California. I'm also chief of nephrology at the University of California. Also, I'm involved in the World Kidney Day. I'm one of the co-chairs of the World Kidney Day. And also we have a Journal of Renal Nutrition. That's a different hat I have. I have several hats. I work with the US government entities, and I'm very much pro-conservative management. I also work with a large number of companies in a disclosed way. Also, the World Kidney Day, as a reminder, comes from the International Federation of Kidney Foundations and World Kidney Alliance. We hope that we can work with you to build alliance. The more we are, the more united we are, the stronger is the kidney voice. Remember, 1 + 1 is at least 3, if not even more. So we are hoping that with your help and support, we can also continue to elevate kidney education based on World Kidney Day, World Kidney recipes I'll share with you. World Kidney Day every year has a theme. The theme of 2021 is living well with kidney disease. I really push for this theme very hard. Why? Because while all these preventions and things are important, what if you have kidney disease? What if you have kidney disease stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? We are here for you. The year 2021 is your year, living well with kidney disease. And please let me know if you have any suggestions what the theme of the World Kidney Day should be in the upcoming years, as long as I'm the co-chair, I have certain leverage. So now, what's the journey of people with kidney disease? I start with the end station, which is called end stage, which is wrong actually. Some of my patients have told me, doctor, why are we calling this end stage? Why are we calling this even failure? They say kidney failure is wrong too. One of my patients, amazing lady from Washington, D.C., and my partner, my friend, she says that her kidney failure is kidney success. This is a success story. In the United States, 120,000 people transition to dialysis. And we are here to make sure that if I have kidney disease, I live well with kidney disease, good quality of life, I can go and do whatever I want. One of my patients on dialysis has been 41 years of dialysis, not even one day of kidney transplant. And he, in Southern California, next to me, he's still coming and seeing me with his wife and 3 children. And patients have priorities, values, and goals. Patients are not patients. They are my partners. They are your partners. And we team up to help with the values, priorities, goals. Now, no matter who the US president was, I have no strong political opinions. I go all the way from extreme right to extreme left and go back and forth every day. The previous US president came up with such a great thing called executive order: more home dialysis, more kidney transplantation. But look at number 3, less end-stage kidney disease and surgeries by 2023, 25% less. And he said we can approach this by reducing number of patients, by slowing the rate of progression. 25% less people on dialysis or kidney transplantation by 2030. And this became even more important during the era of COVID-19. It has been 15 months that I have not been flying. I used to fly 300, 400,000 miles a year. And we're going to hopefully at some point start flying. We don't know. And I look forward to coming and seeing you. But right now we want patients. There's no reasons for patients to come to the dialysis unit. If they have to come, they have to come 3 times a week. If they can't do home dialysis, they have to do this. But if we can avoid, defer, delay dialysis, why not? Right? That's why we are here. And you may say, and know a lot of my PKD patients say, doctor, let me get the kidney transplant, get it over with. I say, look, no, that kidney transplant is my goal, is past history. Now, our goal is not even needing dialysis or kidney transplantation, right? So if you can achieve that, why not? And this is what I do with my PKD patients and DKD patients, CKD patients, all of them. So now, what's the chart? This is a chart I published in a journal called New England Journal of Medicine a few months ago. And we said that, look, kidney function gets worse over time. And in the past, when I was trained 20 years ago in the University of California, San Francisco, UCSF, which they called Harvard Medical School of the West Coast of the United States, we used to say earlier is better. Now we say, actually, guess what? Maybe later is better. And sadly, it's going to the extreme. The pendulum goes from the right to the left, like my political views. And look at here, we say never dialysis, let them die. That's also maybe okay for some, but not for 99% of people with kidney disease. They should survive. They should not only survive, a person with kidney disease should live the longest. That is our goal, longevity. If anybody talks with you about end of life, if it's not what you want, just say that to Kalantar. I said, don't talk with me about that. Of course, we have to do what we have to do. But this should not be imposed to anybody. Supportive care has a value, but not for everybody. So we should not overuse this. Also, life-sustaining care is our goal, but we need to understand that preservative management is our goal. How I can, if I have PKD, if I have diabetic kidneys, how I can make this kidney last many years so that it lasts even longer than my biologic age, right? Is it doable? Well, I don't know. I can make up things. I'm a scientist, but I also see patients. I have 65 dialysis patients. I round on them every week on 3 different dialysis units. Then I have kidney transplant clinic that I co-cover and oversee. Then I have CKD clinics where people fly from all over the world to see me. Usually It takes 6 to 8 months, and I make no money out of preservative management because I'm a salaried physician. And also, we work with palliative care doctors, and most importantly, symptom management. Now, World Kidney Day again, 2021, living well with kidney disease. Hope. What is hope? Hope is the quintessential goal and feature we need to have. I cannot be in front of you without hope. Hope is a feeling of trust. Hope makes patients, my partners, feel more powerful. My job is here to give my patients hope, not lying to them, not making up things, but giving hope or reinforcing hope. And this is what the World Kidney Day 2021 is about, living well with kidney disease. And look at here strategies, patient-friendly lifestyle and diet, and delaying the dialysis start and preserving your kidney function. The worst thing is when I see 11,000 nephrology in the United States, they tell the patient start dialysis and don't worry about peeing. And I say, no, I want my patients in my dialysis unit to interrupt their dialysis treatment and go to the bathroom to pee and come back. This is my goal. That's why we do incremental or gradual start of dialysis. And last year, the World Kidney Day 2020 was about prevention. But prevention doesn't mean 100% primary prevention. Prevention means also secondary prevention. That means if you have kidney disease, how I can stop progression. And tertiary prevention means if I have more advanced kidney disease, how I can try to delay dialysis, right? So there are all primary, secondary, tertiary preventions. And if you see, I have highlighted the role of diet and lifestyle everywhere. Am I one of those doctors who doesn't believe in medications? No, my patients are also on a lot of medication, from ACE inhibitors, ARBs, lisinopril, losartan, SGLT2 inhibitors, all of them. But diet and lifestyle is number one. And as I said, we are here to provide hope. And in 1973, United States had the first and last socialist medicine in the history of the United States. Yes, it was a socialist medicine. I mean, dialysis for anybody who needs dialysis. And this is one of my partners. Sadly, he passed away last year at this time, actually February 2020. And he chose dialysis, and he said dialysis means life. And he gained another 8 years, from 71 years old to 79 years old. And he enjoyed life. So when dialysis is needed, it's needed. But when it's not needed, we are not going to allow anybody to start dialysis early. All right. So now, what is here? I'm here to tell you one thing. Hope can be reinforced if we have choices. Choice. If I tell my PKD patients that, hey, don't worry about this, whenever it's your time, I start you on transplant or dialysis, that means I have given only one or two choices. That's a dichotomy, that either you start dialysis or kidney transplant or palliative medicine without doctor. And because some patients say, doctor, I'd rather die than starting dialysis. And I say, look, that's a dichotomy word. I don't know who gave you this dichotomy. We're here to give you choice, 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 choice. Conservative and preservative management, how to preserve kidney functions. Gradual start of dialysis is what we do. It's called University of California Irvine model, once a week to twice a week dialysis in the first few weeks to months to years. Expanded use of palliative care. Palliative care is not just for people to die. Wrong. It's to help with symptom management so that I live happy, without pain, without cramps with kidney disease. And here I'm going to now, for the next 30 minutes, to highlight the first one, diet and lifestyle. And hopefully when you invite me in the future, I can talk about other things. Or when the world opens up, I already told you guys, this is our executive order, Advanced American Kidney Health Initiative. And I also wrote about this in the Journal of Renal Nutrition. Why? Because I said, if you want to have less kidney disease, we need to change the nutrition. We need to really, I mean, kidney disease we have. If you want to have less people on dialysis, and dialysis patients, we have less people on transplant patients we have. If we want that kidney transplant to last longer, instead of 10 years, it lasts 20 years, then we need to provide correct nutrition. And very few nephrologists would tell you about these things. In fact, many nephrologists say that, don't worry, just eat whatever you want, diet doesn't work. You have a kidney transplant, diet doesn't work. So now, mortality of dialysis patients is high. I'm going to bypass this slide to go to this message. Dialysis freedom is the goal, if possible, all right? It's not, again, the dichotomy. We want to see if it's possible to make the kidneys last longer. And people always say that, Dr. Kalantar, my father is 89 years old, and everybody says he needs dialysis, and we decided not to do dialysis. What should we do? And you're the famous doctor. We flew here to see you. It took us 6 months to see you. So what do you think? And I said, look, if you have come here to ask me what I say, that's wrong, because you decide, your father decides to delay and defer dialysis is the best choice. And it's not just for your 89 years old father, it's for everybody, every single person with CKD, DKD, that is dialysis kidney, and PKD must live happy, not only happy, first of all, must live long, prosper, and happy, as long as possible. And we are here to work on the preservative management with the keyword life and diet, diet and lifestyle. And what is the definition of lifestyle modification? This is the Nature Medicine definition. Lifestyle modification involves altering long-term habits, typically eating and physical activity. And it's usually defined for obesity, but you just need to know, if I change my lifestyle and I don't like it, that's wrong. If I say, don't eat banana, don't eat avocado during my dialysis rounds, when dietitians, and these are hardworking people, they're around with me, and they say, don't eat avocado, why is your potassium high? Don't eat cheese, why is your phosphorus is high? I said, hey, stop. You don't talk with my patients like this. My patients are here to enjoy life, not to listen to all these, don't eat this, don't eat that, right? Nutrition and diet must be positive. Eat healthy, eat what we tell you is good for you. Don't say what not to eat, because if I say what not to eat, then there is nothing left to eat, right? And as you can see here, there is no difference between CKD and DKD and PKD, but also we're going to go over the PKD, some of the intricacies. So now, I have today no data about what is called physical activity. That's another 1 hour talk. We talk right now for the next 30 to 28 minutes about diet. And what's the challenge? We are in an era of high protein diet, to the point that when I go to meetings, even with the US government, congressional hearings and this and that, during the dinner, suddenly people throw away their bun and bread, and anybody who eats just the meat and doesn't eat anything else is considered superior. That's a lot of pressure on us. Eat more protein, don't eat carbs. That's what they say, no carbs, high protein, right? It's been 20 years now, the pressure on us. And we think it's healthy, right? Is it healthy or not? Well, guess what? In the United States, people, this is now a number you should know, 1.36, 1.25. What does it mean? It means grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight per day. So on average, people in the United States, UK, even China, even India, even anywhere you go, it's right now 1.2 to 1.4 grams per kilogram protein per day. That's what we are eating. Now, is it normal, high, low? What is it? This is what, first of all, the fact. And I'm here to tell you it's high. Now, what's the low protein diet? Low protein diet is 0.6 to 0.8. Just keep that number in mind. And we eat 1.2 to 1.4. 0.6 to 0.8 is called low protein diet. There's also very low protein diet I'm going to touch base on, is 0.3 to 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram per day, right? And a great guideline body in the United States called KDOQI, Kidney Disease Outcome Quality Initiative, they suggested 0.6 should be the target for CKD, including DKD and PKD, right? So now what's the challenge? Some people say that most nephrologists, let's say United Kingdom has 5,000 nephrologists, or 4,000, I forgot. United States has 11,000 nephrologists. They're gonna tell you that, hey, diet doesn't work. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Already in 1994, almost 30 years ago, a study was published called MDRD, Modification of Diet in Renal Disease, and this study was negative, showed diet doesn't slow progression of kidney disease. Actually, this is the figure, you can show them, and that shows actually that there was some, actually, if you see, there was some slowness with low protein diet. Now, this study had a lot of animal-based protein. Why? Because at that time, they believed if you give low protein, you need to make sure it's a lot of animal-based protein. And then the other problem was that, so there was no plants at that time in late 80s. I mean, there was plants were always there for millions of years, but the kidney diets were not plant-based. Lack of diabetic patients were excluded. Actually, look at here, it's very interesting. Overrepresented polycystic kidney disease. You should be very proud of MDRD study because it had 40% of the patients were PKD, because PKD Foundation 40 years ago teamed up with the government to make this study happen, right? So what you see actually is the data of PKD patients, and it still shows PKD, which is the slowest progressive disease among all CKDs. Still, they responded to low protein diet, still, despite the wrong and unrefined way of low protein diet being mostly from animal based. And so I'm going to go over this, why it's important. Look, this is your nephron. Let's say we have 1 millions of them in our kidneys. Every day we lose 10, 20, 30 of them. And right now, those who have polycystic kidney disease, it's putting a lot of pressures, and nephrons are dying, are essentially being annihilated. Now, why is it important? Because nephrons can last 50 years. I'm 57 years, so I want to live maybe a few more years. So then I need to cherish my nephrons, right? And if the pressure is high, look at here, intraglomerular pressure. If that pressure is high, these nephrons are not going to last long. This is the glomerulus of the nephron. That means the tip of the nephron, that tiny, very small glom, right? This vascular tuft. And if you want these to last with your PKDs and CKDs, you need to cherish that. You need to know that you can't allow this pressure to go very high here. So I can give ACE inhibitors and ARBs like lisinopril, losartan, these things, to open the exit, which is called efferent arteriole, to let more blood go faster there and blood pressure comes down. Or I can give SGLT2 inhibitors or low protein diet to tighten the entry, right? Plant-based diet. So this is essentially the concept. And this was the paper when they invited me to write this in 2017, 3 years ago, for New England Journal of Medicine. I highlighted that low protein diet works along with low sodium diet. So those, right now it's 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. in the United Kingdom. It's actually 11:30 a.m. in California. For those who are eating and watching me, if you have 2 big steaks in front of you, your amino acid surge is high, and the glomerular pressure has gone up through the roof. Wow, this is what you're doing to your kidneys, those who are eating a lot of meat right in front of me, or just ate half an hour ago, an hour ago. Those who are not eating and waiting for Dr. Kalantar's lecture to end, and if you're a little bit hungry, your amino acid surge is low and GFR is low. Is it healthy? No, I don't allow anybody to starve. That's wrong. So some people take me wrong when I tell them low protein diet, they go to 0, and that's wrong too. But now, for those who have diabetes or other kidney diseases, when you eat a lot of protein, within 30 minutes, as you can see, within 180 minutes, within 1.5 hours, GFR goes from 90s to 160s. And instead of you being proud, say, wow, look, I can increase my GFR to 160. Guess what? That's bad. If you don't have diabetes, it goes up. It goes to 130. It's called glomerular hyperfiltration. For millions of years, our nephrons were created. The moment you eat protein, the GFR, that means filtration rate, goes all the way high. Now imagine if you eat a lot of protein, you are essentially, it's like you overburden your kidneys, like having a car and running is at 130 miles per hour. Like I usually go with my car 100 plus miles. I get several speed tickets a year. And that's why the cars that I drive don't last more than 5 to 10 years, because I am not careful, right? So studies from populations have shown that populations with high protein intake have more likely risk of kidney disease. There's a lot of people who are against this data. These data are mixed controversial. So for example, when I put here 2 years ago in NDT, high protein diet could be harmful even for healthy kidney. I said, unleashing the taboo. Suddenly, bang, this went to the news, and usually I polarize the discussion, and there were people who are saying, hey, what are you doing? You're making us all eat carbs, and this is wrong, right? High protein diet is bad for kidney health, unleashing the taboo. And so many news, social media, and everything else. And then we wrote here, and Jason is #1 nephrology journal in the world. And we wrote again more about high protein diets and why we should really switch more to plant dominant diets. Now, if we go back again to the MDR, the Modification of Diet in Renal Disease, which was published in 1994, it was a clinical trial of giving low protein versus high protein versus very low protein 3 hours in the United States to a lot of patients, to 600 patients. Almost half of them were PKD patients. And look what happened. After month 4, there was actually slowness. Now, the study was for 36 months, 3 years, as you can see. And initially, kidney got worse in the first 3 months. Kidney function got worse before it starts getting better, right? And if the study had looked at the speed of losing kidney function from month 2, it would have it would have reported positive. And this is despite the fact that the bulk of these patients were PKD, polycystic kidney disease patients who have very slow progression. So now, what about low protein? Is low protein safe? Now, your nephrologist is going to say that, hey, if you don't eat enough protein, you may get malnutrition. And we wrote about this too. Actually, I've written more papers about malnutrition in kidney disease than anybody else probably. Probably I've published 500 papers just on malnutrition. Why? Because we are not here. It's not the name of our game to cause malnutrition by giving low protein. Is low protein that is safe? Yes, it is safe. Yeah, there is actually, I wanted to say that how much I and others have worked on cachexia, sarcopenia, and we're not here to cause that. But what is the recommended protein? Did you guys know what is the government of actually not the government, the National Academy of Medicine, Institute of Medicine in the United States, recommend, and the recommendation called RDA, recommended dietary allowance for proteins 0.8. Now, what is this 0.46? This 0.46 is to tell me that metabolic studies have shown that if you get essential amino acids, all your body needs is 0.46 so that you don't lose muscle. But when the World Health Organization and US Institute of Medicine have said that 0.8 is the target. Now, compare 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram per day to 1.2 to 1.5 that we are eating on a daily basis. We're eating 50% to 100% higher than the recommended. And the recommended is actually to be on the safe side. Actually, instead of 0.46, they initially said 0.6, you don't even need essential amino acid, but then it said 0.8 so that you can eat whatever you want. And now we eat 50%, 100% higher than that. So the other thing is that until recently, they used to say that if you eat 0.6 to 0.8, you need high biological value. It means mostly meat and red meat and chicken. And we have switched out of this. We say that at least 50% of your diet should be from plant. That means the plant's dominant, right? And this is called PLADO. Why PLADO? I don't know. It's just called PLA means plant, DO means dominant. And PLADO reminds me of my 3 children. I have 3 daughters. When 3 girls were younger, I used to play PLADO in daycare. So it's a good abbreviation, PLADO diet. Plant dominant. Low protein, plant dominant means at least 50% of the source must be from plants. What's the usual proportion? Usually, we in the US and you in the UK and my former colleagues in Germany and also in China and in Japan, there is no place except for some areas in India. Usually 70 to 80% of the source of your protein is from animal, 20 to 30% is from plants. Here we say at least 50% plants. All right, so high biologic value proteins are important, but we are moving out of that so that we not compromise the use of plant-based diets. And also another issue is low potassium versus high potassium. Actually, I check potassium intake of my patients to make sure that it is adequate, 4.7. Whereas you go into your nephrologist and dietitian and say, eat less than 2 grams of potassium. I say, eat more than 4.7 grams of potassium. And I check 24-hour urine every 3 months. My patients, they cannot see me. If they used to come before COVID to these hotels, 24 hours, 48 hours in advance, they had to do 24-hour urine collections, and we had to calculate how much they ate. And if they didn't eat enough vegetables, their potassium was low, and I would say that, look, you can't come to see me, go and see another 11,000 nephrologists. You want to see me, you need to adhere to my plants dominant diet, right? And then what about other problems? Let's say, how can I control? Actually, this is what, as I said, 24-hour urine protein collections is fun. We do that. I only tell my patient that if you're doing it at home, don't leave this next to orange juice. Otherwise, people at home, I think it's orange juice. So just label it correctly, and then we measure urea, we measure sodium, because I also tell them don't eat too much salt. I don't give them that extreme low salt. I said that just eat less salt, please. If you like me, if I'm your partner, eat less salt, but enjoy. I'm not here to tell you to go and torture yourself for the rest of your life because you have kidney disease, right? And eat more plants, no supplements if possible. I don't like anybody to get supplement. I said food naturally. And we calculate to see if this 24-hour urine collection is done correctly. Some of my patients, they eat 10 liters a day they think to make me happy. The more urine they give me, I'm happier. And I keep telling them, no, I want you a normal day of your life, right? And after all these calculations, all right, so now what is this? Some people say, doctor, what about keto analogs? And I say that, look, I don't work with any supplement companies. Even if they pay me to be a consultant, I don't come outside and tell anybody that this is good, this is bad. And what is keto analog? What is important for us to know, because studies have shown, like this one, the lower is your protein intake, the longer the kidneys last. And that is misunderstood. Sometimes people say, doctor, because of your slide, this slide, I stopped eating protein and I've lost 20 pounds and I'm dying. I said, look, that's terrible. That's what not I told you. I said, yes, I show the data, the lower the better, but that is wrong. I shouldn't say the lower is better. There's a sweet spot. You can't go below 0.6 or 0.5. If you go below 0.6, then you need supplements. And these are keto analogs of amino acids, right? Keto analogs of amino acids means amino acids that don't have nitrogen. And that is something like a dietitian like Jessiana, if she joins us, she can tell you more. And I also made this, please don't get confused, because ketogenic diet I'm going to talk about right now has nothing to do with keto analogs of amino acids, right? Ketogenic diet is something else, right? And we apologize for confusing everybody. Too many ketos and Ks, including my last name starts with K. I'm so sorry. So we're going to, and there are studies about keto acids of amino acids, right? That means amino acids, and they don't exist in nature, but they are actually created in your liver. That means right now, your liver removes nitrogen out of the amino acids and make them keto acids. And this is then some companies generate that and give them to you so that for those who are on very low protein diet, they can supplement that. And there is a value to that. My colleague, Dr. Brunori, a very accomplished nephrologist in Italy, managed to delay dialysis in 70-year-old people by keto acids of amino acids, for example. All right, and more, these are called meta-analyses. I'm going to go to the next one. What if you need dialysis? In my center, when I give another 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years to patient to delay dialysis, when patient needs dialysis, I said, now it's time for dialysis. We start once a week. Actually, right now we start twice a week, but almost never twice a week. And I say that if you start you on once a week dialysis, I had a 89-year-old patient who was with me for 3 years. And then when it was time to start dialysis, he stayed home to die. And I went to his home. I went and talked to him and his daughter and grandchildren. I said, you're going to come to dialysis tomorrow. We start once a week dialysis. And at the age of 89, he started twice a week dialysis and started driving again. And he saw his birthday, 90th birthday. And this is important. Why? Because we want anybody who tells you once you start dialysis, you cannot pee anymore, he or she is wrong. If possible, we want to maintain residual kidney function and want patients to start less dialysis. Now, PD is very important. I have to, we have 60 PD patients, 12, actually 14 this week, home hemo patients. And we hope that all these patients in center, home hemo, home PD, they can maintain their, essentially their residual kidney function. I want to say that, look, 3 times a week is history. We start patients on once or twice a week so that they can have RKF, residual kidney function, longer. And maybe 3 months to 3 years later, they can switch to 3 times a week. Maybe 20 years later, they switch to 4 times a week. As my patient has been on dialysis for 41 years, is now 4 times a week, and he's still running a company. And this is our goal. And our goal is for those who start once a week. The Italian, for example, approach is to start patient on once a week, the Locatelli protocol, and then on the other 6 days a week, they maintain low protein diet. So now, what about the next slide, which is green? Green means plants, right? This is my favorite color. And this study showed that the higher is the proportion of protein from plants, above 50%, as you see, the lower is the risk of death in a person with CKD. These are observational data. And based on this is from my colleague, Dr. Srini Bedu in Salt Lake City. And we teamed up to essentially, I mean, this is not a rocket science discovery. We just came up with a name so we can write down in our medical records easily. So start PLADO diet 0.6 to 0.8. 50% plant-based diet, high fiber, right? Complex carbohydrates, no. Again, I said I shouldn't never say no, but I just said it. I'm sorry, I apologize. But usually I tell my patient, look, complex carbohydrates, healthy carbohydrates, plant-based. I mean, the more plant you eat, the more fiber, the less likely your potassium to go high. And if anybody tells you, any nephrologist tells you don't eat this, don't eat that, because potassium is high, let you know. And these are even great, not only the plant-based diets. And why don't I say a lot plant-based? Because plant-based sometimes is political. They say, yeah, you're from the Green Party, you're from the left side. And I say, look, I have no political orientation. So we try not to say plant-based, we say plant dominant. Also with that, we give freedom. You eat, as long as you eat 50% of sources of your protein from plant, the other 50%, you can work with me and you can come up with different things. If you can make it 2/3 protein from plants, even better, I'm even happier. It goes to all different cultures, from India to China, to Middle East, to South Africa and North Africa, everywhere you go. And what about high biological value protein? Well, guess what? There's nowadays potassium binders. If your potassium is high, we can help you with so many things, as long as you eat plant-dominant diet. And give it a shot. Just enjoy. Make it something that you enjoy. Create recipes, work in recipes. And how can we diversify this? Look, now I'm going to talk about something that you guys have heard since last year. My colleague from Santa Barbara, University of California, another University of California, based in Santa Barbara, he, a great scientist, came up with animal-based data on ketogenic diets, right? And again, I'm here to tell you what I talk about Keto Analogues is different than ketogenic diet. And these are slides that Ms. Jessiana Seville from Washington, D.C., and now in Florida emailed me because she is creating more and more ketogenic diet that is PLADO. Because people say that ketogenic diet means high, if you look at here, high fat diet, and that could only be achieved if I eat a lot of fat, rich meats. And guess what? That's wrong. Yes, ketogenic diet was originally created was indeed high protein, high fat, but now more and more you hear about plant-based and plant-dominant ketogenic diet. And so limit animal proteins for a ketogenic diet. Emerging research here is that there's actually, as you see also a few other names, beta-hydroxybutyrate and others. And the classic ketogenic diet is meat-based, animal-based, but we are here to work on this to make it a kidney diet compatible, a PLADO compatible. And that's what Jessiana and others have done. To be consistent with low protein diet, 0.6 to 0.8, to be consistent with plant dominant diet or plant focused ketogenic diet. So, and this is doable, this is being done. And we prioritize vegetables and plants in the ketogenic diet. So go and tell your friends and colleagues, says, wow, keto diet means I eat a lot of animal and meats. That's wrong, right? And this is essentially, let me go back here. So now fat in ketogenic diet, fat is 70 to 75%. Fat is usually 45 to 55%. Here is 20% more. Carbs are not high, as you can see. And protein is still remains low, less than 20% of the calorie comes from protein. And most of it is from plant-based protein. So healthy fat, more plant-based. And also I have endorsed this one again here based on, and this is really safe. And there is no way, I mean, yes, there is always a way, but if you eat adequate amount of fibers, if you have good bowel movement, your potassium should not go up. And as I say, if it goes up, there is no reason for me to tell you don't eat this, don't eat that, because that has never been shown. All these things that are dietitian nephrologist says that potassium restricted diet actually cause more harm, in my opinion, and I may be wrong. All right, so these are meal plans based on a ketogenic diet, but I would like just to emphasize that data on ketogenic diet that emerged 1.5 to 2 years ago from Santa Barbara group is all based on animal models, right? So this is animal models with models of kidney disease with cyst and cyst growth being retarded using ketogenic diet. And here I put here that Dr. Kalantar does not endorse anything, but since Dr. Jessiana, Ms. Jessiana Seville gave me these things, I'm sharing these 3 slides with you. I do not endorse any supplements, and I do not work with any of these companies. And I appreciate these slides. Now, what if you donate one of your kidneys, as Susan did, to her husband, her spouse? Then you have one kidney. Until a few years ago, we used to say, oh, you have one kidney, go and live another 100 years, don't worry. I don't say that anymore. Data have shown people who donate a kidney to a PKD patient or CKD patient or DKD patient that have 5 to 10 times higher risk of ESRD. So that's what I tell my patient. Truth is, we don't lie. I mean, our kidney transplant center, we do 120 to 130 transplants a year, and we don't lie to anybody. Well, we say that if you work with me, you can live another 100 years with one kidney, but provided you don't overburden that kidney. Don't eat what we say, don't eat more than 1 gram of protein per kilogram per day. Eat more plants. This is what is, again, a type of PLADO for people with one kidney, to your mothers, wives, husbands, children who have donated kidneys to you. Be nice, help them. They're your care partner. Remember, they're not caregiver, they're care partner. A caregiver who's a family member is called care partner. Don't ever call them caregiver. Just say, she's my care partner. And And look at this paper. Go to Google, put my name, Kalantar, solitary kidney. That means one kidney. I have a lot of patients with one kidney who fly and come to see me because they had kidney cancers. And I always tell them, you want to come to see me, you need to avoid too much protein and you need to eat more plants and you need to have a healthy life, avoid high BMI. Then your one kidney will last probably longer than my age. And there they laugh. What about transplanted kidney? Now that really breaks my heart. Each time I see a dietitian, nephrologist says, now that you're gaining weight after kidney transplant, it's called kidney transplant associated obesity, eat a lot of protein. Guess what? That kidney transplant that should have lasted 20 to 30 years, now lasts only 10 years. Don't do that to this important. I mean, these are precious kidney transplanted organs given to you. Why am I telling you eat a lot of protein? Yes, obesity is bad, but that doesn't mean I hurt the kidney to avoid obesity by high protein, high red meat diet, right? So there are also data suggesting that plant-dominant diet, Mediterranean diet, could help with transplanted kidneys to last longer. What about microbiome? I do microbiome studies. A lot of these emerging companies and supplements are there. I don't endorse any of them. Remember, Dr. Kalantar does not endorse anybody. If anybody says, oh, Dr. Kalantar put his stats on this or that company or that diet or supplement, wrong. Don't ever quote me. I'm here to work with you based on natural food. Of course, there's a lot of science behind microbiome. And I work on this with our colleagues here. Also for COVID disease, we have continue to work on this. What about sodium? I said, yes, sodium has a story. I tell my patients, as long as you don't eat more than 3 or 4 grams of sodium a day, I'm happy. But don't overdo this. And if you want to work with me, hopefully, I just know that every 3 months with your 24-hour urine, I can say how much salt, how much potassium. Actually, I like high potassium. Remember, it has to be all natural. How much fruits and how much protein you ate. All right, and this is very important. So anybody who next time is giving you a hard time to your patients, care partners, tell Dr. Kalantar said plants dominant should not be avoided because of this fear of potassium. That should be history. All right, now. It's quite interesting. We had in 2016 a consensus conference, and we talked about other ways to avoid dialysis. And I show you only 1 or 2 slides because we're running out of time. One is about this one, using your intestine as a dialysis. And there are companies that are emerging using on this. Is an old, actually very old concept. When my patients have dialysis patients have diarrhea, I said, please stay home. Your diarrhea is 1 dialysis treatment already. So for this week, you will get 1 dialysis less. But please talk with your nephrologist. Don't quote me on this. That's wrong, right? And also the other one is that can we use sauna as a dialysis therapy? Well, there is a science behind that, and it's emerging. It's one of those innovations, but it has to be proven. And so I talked about plant dominant. Also, one of the projects I asked PKD of UK and UK patients, please, if there is anybody from UK patients group, come and join me. We have International Federation of Kidney Foundations, World Kidney Alliance, and we're working on World Kidney recipes. And this project is being launched in July. And every year we're going to come up with different themes of World Kidney recipes, like World Kidney Day. Different cultures. We're gonna make kidney disease diet fun instead of don't eat this, don't eat that. Everything should be fun. And together we're here. So I'm going to go over this once again. Dr. Kalantar is against dichotomy. We need choices, hope and choice. And as I put here, ensuring choice for people with kidney disease, dialysis, supportive care, and hope. Hope is the most important one. Hope of continuing value relationship, hope for rehabilitation, and hope for achieving life goals and pursuits. And dialysis, anybody who says that I'd rather die than starting dialysis, please tell that person to come and talk with me. Dialysis is chemotherapy for cancer. Nobody's happy to get to chemotherapy, but dialysis is the ultimate treatment, not infrequently, if it's done correctly. And nutritional interventions, including low and very low protein diets with plant dominant approaches, they're here for you to live well with kidney disease. Incremental dialysis, other conservative preservative managements. And remember, when diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. No disease that can be treated by diet should be treated by any other means. So choice, let's have hope, prolonged life. Let's never allow any patient says, now that I have kidney disease, I'd rather die. It's easy for me to say, but I can tell you, I'm not just saying out of nothing. I am with patients every day, every week for the past 28 years with patients with kidney disease. And we call for increased collaborative efforts. That means we need to, instead of being against each other, these societies against that society, UK Kidney Health is leaving IFKF or all other things. We need to work together. And
call from name unavailable.
Okay, sorry, the name was unavailable. So alternative nutritional approaches to DKCKD must be all based on diet and lifestyle. Low protein is not really low. Remember, you learned today that 0.6 to 0.8 is actually normal. Make it fun, have it more plants dominant, more fruits and vegetables. Don't fear of hyperkalemia. We're here to work together, not by restricting what you eat, but by teaming up to eat correctly with plant dominant. And then I said that for PKD patients, while there are data on ketogenic diets that are from animal models, and we still don't have a lot from human models, plants for now, those who choose, who want to have ketogenic diet, we work with them to have plants dominant ketogenic diet with avoiding high protein. And please help us with World Kidney recipes. So I would like to acknowledge everybody, my social media at Cam Kalantar on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Living Well with Kidney Disease. I would like to acknowledge my partner, Mr. Alan Henry Nelson, who was also a member of the National Forum of the ESRE Networks. We used to meet once a year in Washington, DC. And I would like to appreciate all colleagues and especially PKD Charities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cam. That was a tour de force of the background justification for a different, a more enlightened nutritional approach, which I think many people will certainly welcome. We've had questions in the Q&A and also offline, in particular asking, how do you start and what type of foods constitute a PLADO diet? And by the way, Jessiana has joined, and I can make her a panelist if she would like to. We can do that.
Please let us know if you feel comfortable to be a panelist, because I would like you to be there for great patients and colleagues from the UK. All right, so let us know anytime. So in between, so what to do, believe it or not, if I say that plant dominant diet means only this or that, fruits and vegetables and beans and legumes, then I'm wrong. I mean, the whole point is to make it flexible, inclusive, and fun. Therefore, the answer to this question is, I don't know. If you ask me what plants are good or bad, all of them are good, all right? So you choose and you teach me. I want to have recipes from you, colleagues who have created this. And yes, you may say, are you sure, can I eat 10 avocados a day? Well, they told me it has too much potassium. Can I have 20 oranges a day? I would say that, look, I like avocado, I eat maybe one a day. I mean, maybe once, several avocados a week. We actually, Jessiana is gonna tell you that she tell the patient, hey, today you're gonna have this much avocado and this much banana, all right? I mean, they have intimidated our patients to the point, and I shouldn't say they because I'm one of they, to the point that they don't even dare looking at high potassium plants and fruits and vegetables, right? That is wrong. So I don't know, Jessiana, if you can hear us, what would you say?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for including us. It doesn't look like I can turn on my camera. So just a friendly smile and hello from Florida, United States. Thanks for letting me join. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the way that PLADO is getting implemented is exciting for dietitians because it is expanding the food choices. Most people, when they get diagnosed with kidney disease or polycystic kidney disease, get on the internet, and that's real confusing because most of the information, you know, top 10 Google searches talks about restricting potassium, and, you know, don't eat these foods if you have kidney disease, are typically what they say. And it's a lot of high potassium foods, but they can fit in so many people's diets, and we use them. I mean, we have to use avocado in our ketogenic approach to keep the fats on the healthy side. And, you know, we monitor the potassium levels, but we haven't had any issues. So there's a lot of foods we can include very safely that are good, healthy fat sources that you think you otherwise wouldn't use.
Yeah, that was so well said. Let me tell you, my patients on, I said, Dr. Kalantar, I spent hours and now I'm doing well with diets. So I avoided this and this. And then they show me the list and print out, and I said, wow, who told you to go and do this? If you want to follow in Google, why are you coming to see me? Google is sadly mostly wrong. I mean, sorry, I shouldn't really have a strong opinion. Why? Because, and patient says, look, but they said no potassium, potassium hurts kidneys. I said, guess what? Potassium never hurts any kidneys. In fact, data are consistent. Those who eat adequate potassium, their kidneys last longer. Yes, if your potassium in the blood is high, you may suddenly get sudden heart standstill, right? That is, I mean, whoever said potassium kills kidneys was wrong. There is, I don't think you can, first of all, find that in any post. Potassium, my level in the blood is 5.8 or 6.8. Then I have high risk of arrhythmias, bradycardia, other things. But we should really know, number one, high potassium does not cause harm. If anything, you can look up, low potassium is the one that causes CKD or accelerates CKD. That's number one. Number two, we're not here to cause anybody to die of hyperkalemia, that means high potassium. We're just here to make sure that you not go to this wrong concept of hyperkalemia, and therefore I have to eat a lot of meat, because data have never shown by switching from high vegetable to high meat, that's essentially what happens to most CKD patients. They eat, since they can't eat all these plants, they eat more meat. So instead of 30% plant, they go down to 10% plants. So now 90% is animal-based. So that is more harm, on more burden on the kidneys. And great dietitians like Jessiana have worked hard to create those things.
That's superb. Something that seems to be a recurring theme in questions that have been received is for people considering a change, as we say, the caring partner. Usually, I think there's a couple of occasions here it's been mums of adult children and younger kids. I think one's a parent to a 5-year-old and others got kids in their 30s. It's how do we adapt to cook for them over time? It's very difficult to change your diet overnight. Is it a gradual change in the household where we start perhaps adding more fruit as a snack through the day, changing the amount of veg in the plate, cutting down that, instead of our 2 steaks for dinner tonight, going down to 1? How would you suggest in the basic household we start to change on a daily basis?
Yes. Are you from Newcastle? Because I was there for 2 months when I was a medical student back in '93, and I noticed that you have some, you're from Wales?
No, needing to come up further north, I'm in Scotland.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
So maybe, so essentially, I didn't quite understand some of that we had some connection issues also. But the answer is that if we work together to make all these fun, including for children, right? I mean, first of all, the good news with PKD is that many children don't have any sign of polycystic kidney disease, right? So if your husband or my wife has PKD, and it's actually sometimes bad news, but change it to good news. I mean, it's bad news that I don't even know if I have PKD until I'm 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But let's make it a good news out of this. It's actually good news, right? And there is no reason for anybody to feel guilty about, I mean, I have a certain genetic disease. I've given it to 1 or 2 of my children. Should I be unhappy about this for the rest of my life? No. We should all know that there is nobody perfect in this world. And if my wife has PKD, I have to be happy with making a diet and lifestyle to make sure that I support my wife, and so are my children. My children are also helpful, and we all work together. So I think if that was the question, or was it anything else, Tess, that I missed on that?
No, I think what Susan was trying to ask is, how do you make a gradual change? You know, yeah. you might
a gradual change
come back inspired from this, thinking about PLADO, and tomorrow you start thinking about changing your diet. You know,
yeah. As I said,
big shock.
Thank you for saying so. I said gradually we transition, and actually, people, dietitians like Jessiana on the other side of the country, they have come up with this plan. They work with the patient. I mean, I have 8 dietitians on this side. And some of them, they work better than the others, and they come up with, they say for PLADO, for example, 50% is not very difficult. They could easily go to 50% plants and 50% non-plants. That's, we call now PLADO level 1. PLADO level 2 is when you go above 75%, right? 75% plants and 20%. And I always tell my patients, just don't overdo these things. As Susan says, let's do it gradually, right, Susan? So let's just do maybe the first few weeks or months, or even first few 1 or 2 years, just be happy with 50%, 50%. For me, it wasn't easy. I started 18 years ago to stop red meat, and it was, believe me, it was not easy. And I said, why did I did so? Because I said, if I tell my patient, don't eat this, don't eat that, and if I go to having dinner with the White House people, and in front of them I eat red meat and steak, then I can't be, I mean, I'm wrong. If I tell my patient, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat cheese, and I go and eat cheese, right? How on earth can I live with myself? So I started, I mean, I suggest, as a family member, as a doctor or patients, we start with ourselves. See if you can do this. I always tell nephrologists and dietitians, if you tell my patient, don't eat this, don't eat that, just do on yourself for 1 week and tell me if you can live with that. And then some of them have done this, people like Jessiana, and now they come up with gradual transitions. So now, Jessiana, can you share with us, based on also what you presented last week, that your gradual plans to move towards plant focus or plant dominant?
So really depends on the person. You know, some people can start right away, but when we teach a 12-week course for CKD, also PKD, but one is, teaching a plant-based diet, the other a plant-focused ketogenic diet. And we teach it by meal. So you start with breakfast, right? What plant-based meal can you do for breakfast? Everyone can do oatmeal. I mean, in the States, oatmeal and berries and nuts is a familiar breakfast. That's a plant-based meal. And then once you've mastered that, maybe doing some smoothies, then you start with lunch. What can you do for lunch? And again, in the States, peanut butter and jelly is a plant-based meal that's very common. And you can combine that with some vegetables, or, a really powerhouse salad with some beans in it. Those are things people already know. So you can do that for lunch. And then you get to dinner, which is for us, that evening meal is the hardest one for people really to switch to plant-based. And at that point, that's where you start experimenting with a few recipes. But a lot of times you can find things that people already are eating that are plant-based, and they're like, oh, that's plant-based. Oh yeah, you're right. I do like that. I do like bean tacos, or I do like fajitas, or I do like stir fry, and I've already eaten that before. And so they can find that there's a lot of familiar foods that they already know and include in their diet. And if they include start with breakfast, then lunch, then dinner, then snacks. Over the course of 6 to 12 weeks, they can really implement it pretty easily over time. And, it's great to have a dietitian on your side as a cheerleader for sure, to guide you in that process and give you new ideas.
Thank you, Jessiana.
I had a question about, we've got quite a few vegans who have on the webinar, and of course wouldn't be eating any non-plant. I mean, they're eating totally plant-based diet.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there an issue with too low protein if you're vegan, and would you need those keto analog supplements perhaps?
Yeah, as I said, look, a few things. As I said, I can't endorse any supplements because that's essentially a principle I adhere to. So therefore, I can't have any comments on supplements. The only thing is that when, for those who are vegans and have artificial meat, right, or pretend meat, we need to know that, and I eat some of them too. Like sometimes I'm craving, after 20 years still, I say, wow, I really need sausage, right? So I eat one of these pretend sausages that are now and they have no meat. But we need to know that there's a lot of preservatives in there, right? And I yet have to find, maybe we can team up to create a healthier versions of those together. And there's a group of patients in UK, a group of care partners like Susan. We work together to find low preservative or no preservatives, because to my dialysis patients, I always tell them, don't ever allow yourself to eat fast food. And sadly, there's a McDonald's and a Jack in the Box in front of each of our dialysis clinics. And or Coke, which is pure phosphorus, right? It's nothing but phosphorus. I mean, Coke or Pepsi, I'm not for any of these two. So that's a problem number one with artificial meat or pretend meat. The second one is that supplements also, even vitamins, you have to make sure they don't have extra potassium added to them, because if I want to be careful with potassium, so why should I suddenly be not careful and taking this dried food and add it? Because dried food also have preservatives are either phosphorus based. Remember, preservatives have a lot of phosphorus, but also a lot of potassium, right? So when somebody goes and eats meat instead of, when I said no avocado, and then he goes and buys meat, and the preserved meat has a lot of phosphorus and potassium added to that. So that actually worsens hyperkalemia. So these are the situations. So and that's why my suggestion is to find ways, not necessarily organic food, because in the US and in Europe, in Germany and US, organic foods were always more expensive, sadly, right? Just go and find non-inexpensive food that is not preserved or less preserved, right? And create your own recipes and share with us. We add it to the World Kidney recipes, right? So that, let me again take advantage of Jessiana being here. Jessiana, any other suggestions?
Sorry, I have some background noise, so sometimes I'm muting my line.
So it's about supplements. The question is
about the very low protein diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do find sometimes that when people come in that are already vegan, if they're new vegans, sometimes they have focused on everything to eliminate instead of what to include. And we do see sometimes that they're losing a lot of weight, they don't have enough calories, and they don't have enough protein. You can get enough protein from plant foods for sure. But sometimes people, all they do is just take off their plate instead of adding to it. So they just take the meat off their plate, and now they just have this hole in their diet. So that's something that we work with people on. You can get, like I said, you can get all the amino acids, all the protein you need from a plant-based diet, a plant-focused diet. But for some people at later stages, or if you're losing a lot of weight or muscle mass, sometimes we'll utilize a keto analog amino acid type supplement to help them out. Beyond that, the places where we see people have holes, if they're not real smart vegans, or they're super conscientious with their diet, is we'll see problems with getting enough zinc, enough selenium. Definitely see some problems with some of the B12 in particular, which you can't get from plant foods, and iron. So we really hone in on anemia right away if people are coming in fully vegan. Like I said, if you know kind of some of the foods to be particularly conscious of, you can 100% be vegan very safely and get everything that you need with the exception of B12. But sometimes people, you know, they're busy, they're not eating an enormous amount of variety, and so they do need to utilize some supplements to make sure they're not getting deficiencies slowly building up.
Yeah, thank you, Josiana. Actually, again, I have to also add that it took me 8 years not to eat chicken. I mean, so I started in 2002-3 with red meat, and it wasn't easy for me. And then in 2000, actually it was 2017. Wow, it took me 15 years to also cut the chicken. People say I'm getting crazy. Now I'm working on the fish part. I think the fish is going to last another 5 to 10 to 20 years because I really enjoy good fish with salmon, scaled fish, and this is what I'm doing. All right, and I want to be like my patients, because if I tell them to do certain things, as Susan asked, what should we do gradually? I want to tell them that, look, I went through this journey, and I'm not a disconnected clinician. I have done this. It's not easy. You have craving, but we can do it fun. And I have come up now with recipes. I do sometimes cooking to make things nice. I've come up with so many things. A lot of, when I go to India, South India, a lot of Indian recipes. I mean, many of them are not healthy, but many of them are also fun. A lot of spicy food and make it fun, right? And also we need to make sure that high carb, we need to ensure, as Josiana said, adequate calorie, all right? We have come to believe that each time we start a patient on low protein plant-based diet, the obese patients actually, they gradually lose weight. The normal patients, they remain same. And why? Because also our center is a weight management center. That means our dietitians are also 5 out of 8 of my dietitians also work for weight management center. So we can combine these things. Sometimes I have professional football players. Football player, I mean, it's not the UK football, it's that's soccer in the US, as you know. These are big, huge, muscular American football players, right? I had one of them says, doctor, I eat 300 grams of protein a day. Are you crazy to tell me low protein diet? And we work with these people. I have from Hollywood, for example, we have bodyguards, former Marines who are pure muscle. And sadly, because of high protein intake, many of them, some of them, not many of them, have kidney disease. We call it high protein nephropathy. And they come to see me, and we work to calculate, because they have a business. They need to maintain their muscle and their bodybuilding, muscle building. So it's not one size fit all, right? Remember, it's called precision medicine or precision nutrition. So we work together to create something for you, and the best is you, the patient and the family. Susan is the best person to work with the husband to make that happen and gradually. And then Susan and your husband, your children are there to work together to make it fun, right? So with that, I would like to say, if it's time for me to leave, because other people are waiting for me for the past 22 minutes. And Josiana can stay with you, but I would like to say goodbye to Susan and Tess and everybody. And I would like to thank for colleagues who stayed here. And please let us know. And Josiana, also thank you. I would like to appreciate Josiana, who joined us as one of the best, if not the best, dietitian expert in this field. And is it okay, Tess and Susan, if I say goodbye?
Absolutely fine. I just want to check if Josiana's happy to stay with us, because we have got a few questions that I think she may be able to help us with.
Yep, I can do that. I have about 10 more minutes or so.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Cam. And yeah, let's hope to catch up with you at a conference soon. Thank you. Thank you. Josiana, we've had a lot of people asking for typical diet sheets and lists of foods. Are there, I realize, because you probably have diet sheets that are very American oriented, so foodstuffs that may not be recognizable here, have different names even. Are there some things that general tips just to get people started? I think it's a bit of inspiration that people are looking for.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the Renew program that we run, which is the ketogenic approach, that website just launched this year, and one of the freebies on there to join the email list is there's a meal plan with some of the recipes that we use. So that gives people kind of an idea if they're thinking about, you know, what would a ketogenic diet look like? How would I do that? And that website's renew, REN-NU.org. So there's some things there. If you, I mean, all over social media, there's quite a few tools. Most of the dietitians, myself, Jen Hernandez, Michelle Crosmer, they usually have, you know, basic meal plans. All of us are plant-based or plant-focused. And so usually they have like a 3-day meal plan, or, you know, meal ideas that you can get some inspiration from. I know that we put out about a recipe every week, or we put out a series of recipes that are either PKD keto, which means that they're, you know, right, recipes that could be used on a ketogenic diet for PKD, so they're very plant dominant, or they're just plant-based recipes that we use with chronic kidney disease on our website at kidneyrd.com. And we always tag them if they're specifically ketogenic. So, and I know the ketogenic is still new, but a lot of people have questions about that, and, you know, have been wondering, you know, how do you actually do that? So that's something that we've been working on develop, so that can be some inspiration as well. So a couple places that you can start poking around. Otherwise, I mean, people that are on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, any of the dietitians generally have very, very reputable resources. Usually want to look for people that are focused on whole foods rather than using processed foods or promoting, you know, foods with a lot of sugar. I think that you find that the quality in those cases is a lot higher.
Great. So we can email you afterwards, Jessiana, to get some of those links.
Sure.
And,
yeah, happy
share.
to send those over. Mm-hmm.
We did have a question from a dietitian who's doing us, it's actually the chair of the UK renal group, the renal group in the UK, which is around sarcopenia in the elderly, and some guidelines that recommend a high protein diet to prevent sarcopenia. Any thoughts on that, on those?
Well, yeah, and I when you're looking at the sarcopenia, or, you know, people that are losing a lot of weight or following restrictive diets, there's a couple things you have to look at beyond just protein, is definitely overall caloric intake. You know, some people where they're seeing the sarcopenia, I think you would see that it's not that they're eating necessarily only low protein. I think you'd see is they're eating low calorie. And so once you can flesh out the whole nutrient story, you know, not focusing only on protein, you can really target that piece. That being said, when we see people, and again, this is what we have seen in practice. I don't have a study right here to verify this, so this is just totally 100% our clinical experience. But we have seen with some of our younger people that have a lot of muscle mass, younger men at later stages, or some of our older people, you know, they just don't eat very much, that using the keto analog has been very helpful in sparing protein. But I'd say for anything like that, number one, you're looking at the overall total caloric and diet quality, because protein is not the only piece in muscle development or, you know, maintaining muscle. And then, you know, if they're eating plenty, then you can hone in on how much and perhaps use an amino acid supplement rather than driving a higher nitrogen content, which in that already inflammatory state is going to drive their kidney function down.
Thank you. Susan.
Something that's occurred a few times in conversation and the questions is substitutes for milk. We no longer tend to think of milk as cow's milk. Soya milk's there, oat milk and oat drinks. what would you suggest as a simple alternative for the general person?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of our favorites is using oat milk. It's actually very affordable to make at home, very easy to make at home if you don't want to buy it. So we like to use oat milk. We've used, most of the alternative milks really are fantastic. We do avoid the oxalate and cashew milk. I'm sorry, the almond and cashew milk because of the oxalate content. And for us, we're following a low oxalate approach for PKD. So, but I'd say for the general person, oat milk can be fantastic. Coconut milk can work really well too, although it has a strong flavor.
That's superb, because before people just used to think of milk as a dairy product, but those days are long gone now. Thanks there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We had a question about osteoporosis, and obviously people with kidney disease often have problems with their bones. Are there any issues in continuing with the PLADO diet, or are there things one should look to add? Often, we're urged to eat more calcium, which means more cheese or more dairy milk. Any thoughts around that, Jessica?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because obviously on a plant-based diet, you're not going to have as much of the heavy calcium sources that you would have in a regular diet. We number one, proactively look how to include calcium in the diet from plant sources, and there's lots of good plant sources that have calcium in them. Number two, we always make sure that all the cofactors are in place beyond just calcium. So calcium is not the only thing that is involved with osteoporosis. There's multiple other minerals that are involved. And so you can't entirely say, oh, I'm not getting enough calcium, and so my bones are going to continue to deteriorate, because likely you already had plenty of calcium and you already had osteoporosis. So the cofactors there are really important. So that's a piece that we look at as well. If people are at a very high risk, and again, for us with PKD, we are using a ketogenic approach. So not for everyone, but for a lot of people. So we do include a little bit of calcium. We use we do include some dairy products, not an excessive amount because they are heavy animal protein, but we do include some, and it could fit in to the diet for the right person. It's a great question.
Thank you. Just double checking.
Well,
we've had there's a question about tolvaptan and whether there's any contraindications with PLADO and tolvaptan. Are you caring for patients on Gynoc?
Yeah, we do have a lot of people on tolvaptan. There's not a dietary contraindication that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Susan, I think you had.
Yes, it's something someone was asking about, is it okay to fry foods, which actually made me think about the use of oils in cooking or as dressings. Is there a preferred oil?
We focus on good quality olive oil. We like to cook with avocado oil because there's a higher smoke point. We do use coconut oil, which I know is controversial with saturated fat, but saturated fat and how it from plant sources is still really quite up for debate on whether or not it's harmful. And I think there's some compelling research that it can be utilized. So those are some of the fats that we use. We avoid most processed oils, canola, vegetable oils. Those are ones that we avoid. I don't think that they have a huge amount of benefits as opposed to an avocado or an olive oil, personally.
Thank you. Just having a quick look down again. I think most of them have sort of been covered in the, yes, we've discussed issues around veganism and getting enough protein, and consequently, if you've got a very high plant-based protein diet, that was a question that came up. Is there such a thing as a high plant-based protein diet? I mean, can you eat too much protein from your plants?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I find that people would be eating excessive amounts of protein on a plant-based diet if they're using a lot of protein powders, or if they're focusing a lot on legumes and not so much the vegetable part of it. But when you start including a lot of vegetables, which is where there's so much power, it's pretty hard to eat too much protein because you get full, you fill up, it's very satiating. So you could eat too much if you're using a whole bunch of powders, but it would have a different effect than a high protein animal-based diet, for sure.
It's been truly fascinating listening, and it's the sheer volume of questions that are coming in. It's unbelievable, dear Tess. But I know we're very tight for time because we are 5 minutes over, and I think Jessiana had to leave promptly also.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you. I'm really sorry for keeping everybody over, but that was fascinating. And thanks, Jessiana. And if you don't mind, we'll be in contact with you to pick your brains about helping people get started on PLADO and some links to some good sources of information.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure coming in. This was kind of a last minute invitation, but it was neat to talk with you guys, and thank you for letting me join you. Happy to provide resources that can be helpful to all of you.
Thank you. So thank you everybody who stayed and for the great questions that you've all asked. We will be putting up the recording so you can have a look at some of the graphs at your leisure if you're interested in the research and the background to PLADO. And we'll certainly be sending out links and helping you get started. And perhaps our next webinar could be with a UK dietitian who's got an interest in a plant-dominant diet, who could also aid us from a UK perspective. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Susan, for helping keep us all going, and very good night.
Good night, all.